Shalom, giving all honor, all praise, and all glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Arachakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone that rule well. And as always, peace, blessings, and salutations unto the hopeful elect tabernacle of David scattered abroad across the four winds of the earth. And just real quick, I just want to respond, to this statement that Captain Tazariak is going to make. Because I already knew when I was listening to this, I said to myself, at some point, GMS, Great Millstone, is going to come up. And usually when, the name of Great Millstone comes up amongst these other Israelite leaders and these other Israelite camps, it's definitely never in a good or positive light. Which that's the way we want it, because Yahweh Shai even said, woe to you when men shall speak well of you. So did your fathers to the false prophets. The Lord said, blessed are you when men shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. So, we are right with that, but, we still are able to make clarifications on particular statements, especially when they're made, towards us, starting with the elder apostles on down. So he gets to talking about what separates or what sets ISUPK apart from the other camps. And he's answering the brother in the middle that asked, what do they mean by when they say the ISUPK is the home of the truth? If it's not of the commanding general, if you're not with ISUPK, then you're not in the truth. And then you're going to hear him give his explanation. But of course, he had to, send shade at us, send contempt towards us just to up, his own organization, no different than that Pharisee, when you read that parable, was that Luke the 18th chapter, where you had the publican and you had the Pharisee. And the Pharisee, he came to send a prayer to the Lord, but he was big up in himself and downing, sinners. I'm not like these guys over here. I do this, I do that. But the publican, he was more humble in his approach, and he didn't even look up. He was humble. And the Lord said, whose words would the Lord hear between them two? So, these guys, every chance they get, they will, send shade and denigrate just to lift themselves up. And this is, the opportunity and this is, the approach that he chose to take, to big up himself on this platform. All right. So anyway, let's listen to this real quick.
Salvation is for Israel, the kingdom of heaven, whatever the subject you want to talk about it. That's one side of it. Another side is the origin of why we started saying that. And I always bring this out when GMS, another group that people call elders, who openly teach that in the kingdom of heaven, if they grape your daughter, I got shekels for you. Yeah. If I grape your daughter, is 40 shekels. I just graped your daughter against the will. Here's shekels for you. And people are called elders. That's how the term "we are not affiliated with no other group" started, because of them teaching that, getting into an argument with these white women on camera and telling them white women when they get in the kingdom, they're going to grape them in the kingdom. And when we saw that video, people started coming to us asking us, y'all teach that? Y'all teach that? And so we never had a stance that kind of separated us from that. So that stance of, if you're not an ISUPK, you're not the truth, started because of that, because we wanted to.
So, in other words, because y'all were afraid of if other Israelites that heard these things, You were afraid that they were going to hold you in a negative light. You cared about their opinion about y'all. So you had to quickly separate yourself, because you wasn't going to be willing to stand, on the principle of the scripture. All right. Separating yourselves because you want to appeal to this world. That's ultimately what you're admitting here. All right. You're not willing to stand on the truth because, you're ashamed of your heritage. Right. And, this is what I expect from, men who, they claim to know the truth. They teach to keep the commandments, all these different things, but their mindset, their mentality is not rooted in the culture like that. You still have a Western cultural mind view, and basically you're when you say this, you're if it's not of the ISUPK, you're not in the truth because of stuff like that. Really what you're saying is because we're emotional, right? If you believe that and you teach that, then we believe you're not in the truth. Because the standpoint that we take is based on what is written. We would not endorse or condone anything that's not written in the scriptures. All right, the apostles didn't pull this out of thin air. They strictly went right into the text and showed you that this was what was in the law. That if this thing was to happen, if this was to occur, if this happened to be a scenario that we had to come across in Israel, this is how we dealt with it according to the law. And we always stood firm on that. So it's not a matter of being in the truth. Basically you're not in the truth, you're in your emotions. That's what it boils down to. All right. You're in your feels, you're in your emotions, but you're trying to guise that under being in the truth. No, your emotions don't agree with that. So to make yourself feel more secure, you're going to separate yourself and say that, see, they're teaching this, which is in the Bible, and our emotions don't agree with it. So therefore, it's not of the truth. So if you want to be among us, you got to be in your feels. You got to share the same emotion that we have to be in the truth. That's ultimately what this man is saying. But we don't go by your feelings. We don't go by your emotion. We go by what the scriptures say. Because the scriptures say that the heart is deceitful. Let's get that real quick. Jeremiah 17. Yeah, Jeremiah 17 and 9, it says, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, the Lord, search the heart. I try the reins, even to give every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings. So, your mind can be deceitful, especially when it's emotionally driven. You gotta put away your emotions and consider these scriptures logically. You got to deal with logic, man. You got to be a man in this thing. And you dudes over the years, you've been using this to attack us because you don't have anything else. This is kind of like their trump card against us, because every other way, when it comes to the doctrine, we point out all the holes and we deal with it. And when they don't have a real comeback, for the corrections. This is what they do to attack, because these guys are caught up in their feels and in their emotions. But these men are being revealed as, leaders. They have that bravado, militant spirit over there, the no cowards energy. But these guys are very emotional. I'd have more respect for y'all if y'all wasn't dealing in y'all feels and actually deal with the scriptures head on as it is written. Now he knows full well what the stance of what we teach as far as that particular topic. We've went into it for years, man. It's like beating a dead horse at this point. You go into when he was demonstrating about giving a father the shekels of silver. He knows this. Why did he know to say that? Because he know that that's actually in the scripture. But he's being emotional. And usually when you're coming from an emotional standpoint, you're trying to see if others would empathize with you. He's trying to tap into these guys' emotions as well, to get them to disagree. So let me play that one more time.
Teaching that, getting into an argument with these white women on camera and telling them white women 40 shekels. There's the origin of why we started saying that. And I always bring this out. When GMS, another group that people call elders, who openly teach that in the kingdom of heaven, if they grape your daughter, I got shekels for you. Yeah. If I grape your daughter, is 40 shekels. I just graped your daughter.
And he's being disingenuous, with how he's saying this, because when we go into the law, which is what we always do, we always bring out the full scenario. All right. When you go to that particular law, it talks about a woman that's not betrothed. Because when you read up a few verses, it's dealing with if that woman is either promised to be married, and if she's promised to be married to a man, and a man actually touches her. So let's do this. I'm not going to even read the KJV. Let's read the let's go to the CSB. Let's read it in the Christian Standard Bible. Because when you can go into many different translations, man, and all these different other translations, they will agree with our stance. All right. And it's dealing with violations of proper sexual conduct. Right. And we're going to go down. And we're going to start at 22. And it says, if a man is discovered having sexual relations with another man's wife, both the man who has sex with the woman and the woman must die. You must purge the evil from Israel. Why? Because that's adultery. If there was consensual, knowing that this woman had a husband, that's adultery. So we move on from that. If there is a young woman who is a virgin engaged to a man, so she never been popped, she ain't the hymen ain't been broken yet, but she is engaged with, whether the father, knew of the male that he was gonna betroth his daughter to. All right. If there was already an arrangement that was made, if she's engaged to someone and the father, knows who that individual is, and another man encounters her in a city and sleeps with her, take the two of them out of the gate of that city and stone them to death. Because, if she didn't put up a fight and she was with it, then she pretty much committed adultery, even though she didn't lay with her husband yet. They didn't consummate it, but he was promised to another man. It's like if she was promised to another man. All right, more than likely arranged by her father. And she went on ahead and said, the hell with what my father's talking about. I like him. The hell with that other guy that my father's trying to pair me with. And she goes ahead and sleep with this other dude. They got to be put to death. It says the young woman because she did not cry out in the city, and the man because he has violated his neighbor's fiancée. You must purge the evil from you. And in this wicked ass society, these women, they'll literally the day before the wedding, they had a little bachelorette, show you how out of order this society truly is, and why this place gotta go. But you have a lot of that happening. These dudes, they don't be seeing the signs early. They don't show up until later. And we dealing with a bunch of hoes. You shouldn't be marrying none of these women on this side, man. Anyway, continuing on, it says, but if the man encounters an engaged woman in an open country and he seizes and rapes her, grape, right? And I'm not monetized, so if that word slips out, the R word, I'm not monetized, so I'm not even worried about it. But notice that it uses the word seizures and then it uses the R word, all right, because they're synonymous, okay? And it doesn't matter what translation you read. When you read it, it's gonna use that word, because the Hebrew word that it uses is tapash. All right, and it basically means to seize or to take by force, and that's literally what the word grape actually mean. And you go into the etymology, it says only the man who graped her must die. Do nothing to the young woman because she is not guilty of an offense deserving death. This case is like one in which a man attacks his neighbor and murders him. When he found her in the field, the engaged woman cried out, but there was no one to rescue her. If a man encounters a young woman, and this is the difference right here, now this is a different scenario, this is where it changes. It says if a man encounters a young woman, a virgin who is not engaged, so it's the same circumstance, but the difference is she's not betrothed. She's not promised to be married to anyone. All right, the father didn't arrange that yet. So she's free for the taking. She's of age. All right, she's of the age to marry, but she has not been betrothed to anyone. So you see a woman out in the field and she's not promised to anybody. She's not engaged. It says takes hold of her and what? This is in the Christian Standard Bible. And grapes her and they are discovered. What must happen according to the law, not according to what the Zariac is saying. We got to take our feelings out of this, and we have to reason with what the law actually say. It says the man who graped her is to give the young woman's father 50 silver shekels, which that's a lot of money. All right. That's a lot of money, man. You have broken your pockets over that action. All right. You committed an impulsive action and now you just broke your pockets. And this is the penalty for if you done that. It says, and she will become his wife because he violated her. He cannot divorce her as long as he lives. So now she's stuck with you for life. See that? And that's ultimately what we've been saying this whole entire time. But look at how Captain Zazariak, how he got to dramatize and sensationalize it, because he's in his emotions. You're supposed to be this scholarly debating, this guy that keeps his composure, who knows how to listen, who knows how to respond to people when they make certain statements or arguments. You develop this whole code of personality where a lot of people look to you for wisdom, knowledge, intelligence, so on and so forth, advice. But when it comes to us, man, you get real emotional. So that's why he knew to say what he said right there, because he know that it's actually in the law. But he has to demonize us for actually pointing it out because he's ashamed of it. Most of you dudes are still Americanized, man. And you're really ashamed of your real heritage, your culture. All right. Our forefathers, they were not Western minded like you are.
Your daughter taking, I got shekels for you.
Yeah.
And what did I just read? According to that law, even you sisters that watch us, y'all been watching us for years. Those of you that have been rocking with us, so you saw it for yourself. You see it's right there plain in the text. There's nothing to get emotional over. You got certain sisters that are more logical than some of these men that claim to be leaders of Israel. They got big followings. They damn near celebrities. All type of famous people, you know, talking to them on these podcasts and platforms. But they can't get over it, man. So it's not a matter of being in the truth to be with ISUPK. You just in your feelings. That's the real truth. All right. It's not because if you're in ISUPK, you're in the truth. No, you're in your feelings. That's really what it truly is. That's what it boils down to. And if we're gonna deal with the word, we got to stand on the word. Let's go to let me get this in 1 Corinthians. Yeah, this is 1 Corinthians 14 and 20. Let me get it in the AMP. And it says, brothers and sisters, do not be children, immature, childlike in your thinking. Be infants in matters of evil, completely innocent and inexperienced, but in your minds be mature adults. And adults, they take accountability and they deal logically, they reason. You dudes are still, you really don't want to face the text, man. And then he talked about, he saw a video of them, the apostles talking to a white woman saying that they're going to, grape them in the kingdom. I don't recall seeing something like that, but if it was, I mean, let's go here now. What do you do when it comes to spoils of war? When you have a war with your enemy? This is Deuteronomy 20 and 14. It says, let me start at 13. It says, when the Lord your power gives it into your hand, talking about a city, where your enemies reside, you shall strike down all the men in it with the edge of the sword. That's what David and Joab did when they went into Edom. They went and slew all the men of Edom. What did they do with the remaining women? What do you think they did with the women? Because it said that they only slew the men. It says only the women and the children and the animals. Oh, and even because this is Moses in Numbers, what, the 31st chapter. What did he command them to do? After they got rid of all those women that knew men by lying with them. The women that didn't know a man by lying with them, what did he say? He said, take them for yourself. What was we going to do with these women? Yeah, make them servants, but what else could you do? It says, only the women and the children and the animals and everything that is in the city, all its spoil, you shall take as plunder for yourself, and you shall use the spoil of your enemies, which the Lord your power have given you. That is what you shall do to all the cities that are very far away from you, which are not among the cities of these nations thereby, which you are to possess. All right. Now, when you go from there, let's go to the 21st chapter. And verse 10, it says, when you go out to battle against your enemies, and the Lord your power hands them over to you, and you lead them away captive. So you go over there, you make war with them. And you can, and let's say in this instance, you capturing a city, right? and you see a beautiful woman among the captives, because we're not supposed to take captive our own people, right? We could do that with the other nations, but we can't do that to each other. So if you see a heathen, or in this instance, an Edomite, we're dealing with the text here. This dude, he wanted to sensationalize and be all emotional and desire her and would take her as your wife. Then you should bring her home to your house and shall shave her head and trim her nails in preparation for mourning. So you took her and you dragged her away after you done slaughtered her family, slaughtered her people, and you took her into your home because she's a spoil of war. She shall take off the clothes of her captivity and remain in your house and weep, mourn for her father and her mother a full month. After that, you may go into her and be her husband, and she shall be your wife. And that's without her consent. That's whether she choose or refuse. She's a spoil of war. What could a woman do when she's taken captive? If she ain't got no security, she don't have a father, a husband, or anybody. You know? But it shall be that if you have no delight and take no pleasure in her, then shall let her go. You shall let her go wherever she wishes. You certainly shall not sell her for money. You shall not deal with her as a slave or mistreat her, because you have humbled her by forced marriage, which is grape. All right. So this is clearly in the scriptures, but this dude, he's ashamed. All right. When you analyze all these other Israelites, these guys, they're not fully Hebrew Israelites. They're partial Israelites, man. Their mentality is partial. They're not willing to deal with, the truth of how we, dealt as far as our customs, how we handle certain things. It's completely different. These Negroes, they've been in America way too long, like the apostles always say. So, I'm sure I already knew he was going to bring us up at some point, and this is the only thing that they use against us. So I'm gonna end off on that. Matter of fact, let me get one more scripture, because the scriptures teach us not to be emotional. Proverbs 16 and was it 31, 32? Proverbs 16 and 32. Let me get it in the was it the NLT? CSB. Yep, this is it. Christian Standard Bible. It says patience is better than power, and controlling one's emotions patience is better than power, and controlling one's emotions than capturing a city. You got to control your emotions. Really, this wisdom, that should guide your emotions, if you will, because it's not wrong to have emotions because you're human. But it's this understanding and this wisdom that should guide your emotions. Logic should be first. Reasoning and discernment should be first. And let that be the guiding of your emotions. So if you're dealing with reason, logic, and discernment, you'll deal strictly with what the text is saying. You'll be able to swallow it, man. Swallow it down. It says that. That's what it say. And stand on it. Otherwise, you're offended at the Most High. So I'm going to end on that note. I'm going to give all honor, all praise, and glory to Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Until the next lesson, I say shalom.